So, it's like, for us, it's our last event, at TDC. It was, hard 3 days of, of work, and, it's inspirational as always. So we actually have this, conversation. It's a little bit reiteration what we already discussed, with guys today. But there is a saying in Russian that I don't know in English, that repetition is the mother of knowledge. So hopefully it will be helpful to repeat some stuff. So yeah, so I think we have several questions that I have prepared, and I'm sure we will have some time for questions from you guys. So be prepared, to ask those questions. So actually, because some of the people, have not, been on all talks, maybe you just can briefly share your background, and specifically your background in working in international companies, because there is a lot of ways to do it. You can work, being like person Brazilian who work in company that is not Brazilian, being Brazilian, working in a Brazilian company that works with, international clients. So there is a lot of ways to work internationally. So maybe you can share which ways, you have experience with. And I'm sorry that my English is not so good now, as usual. I'm just really, really tired. So maybe Alexey, maybe you can start. There's a microphone.
I haven't worked a lot with Brazilian companies so far.
Yes, so Alexey, how come?
But I guess my background is working with a company that becomes international. And
You just spoke a little bit closer.
Sorry, can you hear me okay? So working at a company that becomes international, and opening new offices, new locations. I was participating in starting an office of Sigma Software in the US. So moving to a new country, starting an office there, and learning how the local laws and everything works, as well as working with customers from around the globe, and working with different management styles, with different ways that people communicate, with different ways that people do work together, and with different values, different mentalities. And a lot of that comes from working with international clients, which, while the company can be, at first, has been really Ukrainian only, we've been historically working with a lot of different clients from across the globe. And the same, I think this works better now. It wasn't me. Anyway, the same, over the past 5 years, I've been working from more of a technology role and managing international development teams, which are teams around, software development coming from various countries. And there's also been a different experience than that of having international customers and starting international offices. So all of this, I think, exposed me to a reasonable amount of internationality in that from various aspects.
Thank you. If you can pass to João.
Thank you. So I can say that I have started my international career
Just
in
a little bit
2014. And this, I was working, as my presentation just...
We know you became first international husband, and then international
First international husband, exactly. So when I come back in 2016 to Brazil, I had clear in my mind that I really would like to continue on this path of international career. So I assumed a position as a business analyst in Fujitsu, that is a Japanese company in São Paulo, working for a Brazilian company that works with US market and EMEA market. And that was 2.5 years working intensively with this project. After this time, I came back to Rio Grande do Sul, and then I started to work at Dell as a product manager. So since I came back from the US, I had the opportunity to work in a Japanese company, and then in Dow currently, I work with clients in US, EMEA, Asia, and some countries in Asia Pacific. And it's interesting that although I have colleagues here in Brazil, my business and most of it is located internationally. Not working, sometimes it's working. So the communication is in English, you know, for all of that. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I think that I'm the only person who didn't do any presentation here. So I'm Adriana. I'm currently working for Sigma as head of office in Brazil, but my international career started a little bit earlier. At the moment that I started to work for a company, a foreign company, I was not looking for an opportunity, but I had a profile on Upwork platform, and at some point, a Spain startup found me and offered me opportunity to be a recruiter. They were start their activities in Latin America, and they needed someone to help them to make the business grow in Brazil, doing the recruitment process here for Microsoft partners. And I started as a recruiter there. I accepted the offer, first as a freelance, and then I realized that could be a great opportunity to me. So I accepted the full-time job. And well, I started to be a recruiter, but after 1 month, I realized that they need someone here in Brazil to help them to grow the business also in the commercial area. And I were the only Brazilian person at the team. And I offer myself to help them in this part, start to attract some partnerships. And I started to do as well this part in sales in Brazil. But I didn't speak any Spanish at that moment. I'm the only person who only speaks English, and all of them were Spanish people. So I communicate with them in English and then reply me all the time in Spanish. And so it were very challenging for me, but at the same time, it was amazing. And well, we started to grow, and then we started to grow also in other countries of Latin America. So we started to hire recruiters from other countries here, so Argentina, Mexico, and Colombia. And as I was the first people in Brazil and also in Latin America, they asked me to lead this team. And this was the second challenge there because they only speak Spanish. They didn't understand a little too much English. So I thought, how can I have a great communication with them if they don't understand me well? And we have this challenge, you know? So I studied a lot, and I'm grateful because I had the best teachers at that moment. That was the native speakers. And in 3 months, I had the opportunity to start to speak Spanish with them. And I could be able to lead this team for 1 year and a half. And I learned Spanish with them. So it was a great thing.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that when we had like interview and like we were discussing was like, we have interview like for 1.5 hours or something, and maybe hour. And then, like we also like, texting with Nastya, what, like, do I like Adriana? Do I think that we need to hire her? And like, Nastya is saying something like, I think she's good. And, because like Adriana first told this story and then she told like a lot of other, achievements. And I was like, what do you mean, are we hiring her? She got us a challenge that she learned Spanish in 3 months. So like at that point in the interview, it was, completely, decided. And, everything after that was just, not to, just to have an interview and talk. So that is, very impressive. So if you learn another language in 3 months, it most likely will impress people who will hire you on the spot.
Well, just to finish, of course that I was not fluently. I still not fluently. But as the English, we only need to be clear in your communication. Also, they accept very well my Spanish and totally able to have the conversations. And at some point, when they saw that I could do some sales in Brazil and now I learn in Spanish, they also asked me to do sales in all countries of Latin America. So in some points, I start to close some contracts there as well, not only like in Brazil, but I closed some contracts in Argentina, in Colombia, in Mexico as well. So was I think, before this 1 month and a half that I'm here in Sigma, I could say that were my main challenge in my career. But I could say now that this 1 month and a half has been very challenging as well, and I'm learning too much. So I think this is my contribution now. Thank you, guys.
I feel that now we need to expect you to speak Ukrainian in 3 months, like, you know. We will discuss it. My name is Anastasia. I'm head of operations also in Sigma in Latin America since this summer, actually. I have been working in international companies for the last 6 or 7 years in different ones, like in European and like really global ones. I have never ever like worked with Brazilian companies before, but right now I'm like happy manager of amazing team for the guys and ladies from Brazil. Yeah, so this is basically my background. Do you want to go in details? No, I feel.
They all know you're not selling. Okay, so next question will be to two people, to Adriana and João. Like, what is the main difference in working for international company and working for local Brazilian company?
Okay. Well, I think to start, the main difference, of course, is the culture, you know, because Brazil is Brazil, you know, the cultures. Even if we have different cultures inside Brazil with different traditions, it's much more easier to adapt our activities and the way that we do the things with Brazilian people. So I could say the main, to start, the main difference is the culture. When you work for a broad company, besides all the things that we need to learn, you also need to learn the different cultures and adapt yourself every day to these new cultures. So it's for the both sides. Teach our culture for them and also learn this new culture. So especially when you have so different countries work together, and especially post-pandemic, that how can I say, that we could have this opportunity to work with different countries at the same team. I think it's very challenging to lead with this kind of situation. And the second thing, I think it's the language, because it's not our maternal tongue. And we have this situation here because everybody don't speak native language in English. So I think that we get much more tired at the end of the day to think every time in another language and translate this for another language. So this is very different as well. I think that's it.
Yes, in addition to what Adriana just said, I believe that it's mandatory to understand the culture in the client, customer, or the company that you are working with. Because, for example, in my case, I had my most experience with the US folks, US stakeholders. And if I take the perspective of the Brazilian understanding of communication and work relation, I would say that most of the time I can consider a communication as rude from my colleagues from the US. But actually it's not rude, it's not rough, it's actually pragmatic, is let's get the job done. So they simplify things even in the communication. So don't expect all greetings in all the meetings. They go straight to the point. I remember a month ago, I was in a meeting and I was starting to say, hello, how are you? That's just like I always start. And then she's one of the co-workers that I work the most. And she said, I don't have time for nice things. Let's talk about what needs to be done. That's okay. Okay. Point one. Ta, 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 ta. Point two. Ta, 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 ta. What is the action? This. Okay. This. All right. Great. 30 minutes. That became 12 minutes. Great. We save 18 minutes. Bye. Next meeting. So that's if I felt bad because of that, or start to think maybe they thought that I would be not doing my work, this definitely would impact in my performance. But since now I understand the culture, I don't care. I mean, I still expect because I am Brazilian and this is my culture, but I can adapt and I'm resilient on the way that I receive the inputs.
Thank you so much. That it's interesting. It's not the way I would perceive, how cultural. Like I would, place cultural mob differently. But I think that's also the point that every culture see it differently. Yeah, I mean that's yeah. That might be tough. So Alexey, actually. Yeah, actually, Alexey had. Maybe you can share what do you think about working with Germans?
Any Germans here? Because I need to hide away. Just let me know now. All right, here we go. Hating on a culture. On a panel discussion in Brazil on an international conference. No, I'm just kidding. But I think in general, one of my first experiences in terms of working with somebody from Germany was back in 2006, where how I was running a small, or maybe 2007, I was running a small development team, and we would get, sometimes customers are not, looking to fix certain issues, and typically, previously, what I would see is that somebody would email us and say such and such doesn't work, and we'd like to fix it, and this is urgent, so let's do it tonight, tomorrow, something like that. So when working with somebody from Germany, what I was receiving is a screenshot of the logo of the application and a subject line in the email, which was saying, please fix it. And it was urgent. It was not very clear what exactly needs to be fixed because, maybe it's the logo, maybe it's the actual app. It turned out that the app was not connecting to one of the servers at one of the times specifically and was showing up an error. But even that error was not on the screenshot. So it's not often easy to decipher those communications. But that was just a fun story back, in, I don't know, 15 years ago. In general, I think the guys from Germany are very punctual and very straightforward, but also very detailed, unlike the businessman that spoke with us. So he was more of an exception to the rule. Did you have any other question that you were intending to ask besides the Germany?
Actually, I did. So Alexey, as you are someone who hired developers, you're kind of a person in a position to do some interviews, and you're looking to have developers who work in your teams. What do you look for in the interviews? Not exactly what are traits, what are red flags, anything you can share about when you interviewing someone and deciding if this person will join your team or not. What is important for you?
Thank you. So for those of you who've been on my talk, I think the two things that I'm looking for. It's the getting things done and being easy to work with. I think those are the key, really, and that's what I'm truly focusing on. Is this person just going to put the blame on everyone and things like this? I'm trying to ask about the previous experiences that they had, and I'm asking why is this working this way? And it was yeah, we could never fix it as companies. Why is that? Well, because those guys. I was okay, gotcha. Or because we as a company decided to focus on different things, and we being a part of the solution in this case. So that's one thing. The other thing is getting things done. If somebody explains how something worked, and you can ask them in detail, like, well, but why did it work this way? And at some point when that person was able to get things done, they'll be able to go to any level of detail about how something worked. Versus if they were just there, but somebody else did all the work, they will at some point not be able to share, like, well, it worked this way, but I have no idea why, or why we arrived at this, and why couldn't we have done it differently, and things like this. So those are the two things that I'm kind of looking for. In general, there is also another slice of this that I'm looking at when hiring specifically engineers, and that is about the abstractions, right? So I don't know how many of you here know the app called Signal, which is created by this guy, Moxie Marlinspike. He's big on the same subject, and I'm kind of really kind of aligned and somewhat inspired by those things. But one of the things that you can learn as an engineer, in my point of view, is how these abstractions work, right? Because everything ultimately boils down to a sequence of, zeros and ones in some capacity. But somehow we're all here and we're not really thinking in zeros and ones. And there are so many different layers of abstractions that have been created, that it created this set of generations of developers that know only the high level of abstractions. And what I'm looking to do is not the knowledge of individual frameworks or recent tools, but being able to go deeper below the first abstraction, second layer, third layer, 15th layer of abstraction, and understand how things are actually done, how the internet works. Because if you do know this, if you do know how, what happens when you start typing in something in the URL address bar in your browser, all the way to what data is being sent over the network, in which form, what kind of, CPUs process what kind of data, what appliances exist, how the internet routing works, and things like this. You'll be able to design solutions that are impossible to design for somebody who just knows a certain level of abstraction. So abstractions do help a lot, but they also take away. And knowing what's behind the abstraction is important. I think it's one of the most important concepts in the software programming in general. And I'm definitely looking to understand that the person knows the abstractions and what's behind them.
Yeah, guys, do you understand what abstraction is? Okay.
Do you, Catherine?
I mean, you told me this many times, I know by now. But actually, I was developer, many years ago, and actually I decided not to be a developer. And one of the reasons that it was too hard for me to go below certain levels of abstractions, and I understood that it would be limiting for me, that I could be, maybe like middle engineer, maybe like almost senior, but I will never be, like exceptional engineer without understanding those things. And it was very hard for me to understand, so I decided to take an easy path and became a manager. And I'm not even joking, that's what I did. So cool. So actually this microphone might work, so I will, if you can pass it to Nastya, because next question will be to Nastya. And so as I mentioned, we will be doing like some repetitions of what we discussed. So the question to Nastya is like, give me 3 main tips of what to do if you want to land your first international job.
Should I turn on again the
No,
presentation?
you can just repeat.
Okay, so 3 tips. I'll try. The first one is like, prepare yourself. I mean, like we talked a lot today about preparation. I'm not sure, we want to spend another 30 minutes about that. But really, find the person who knows what's going on, will be going on with you within the interview process, and just spend at least 1 hour or 2 hours before the interview, go through the structure, repeating some kind of summary about yourself, your experience, prepare some kind of questions to the project or the interviewer about the company, about the project, about some kind of details, technical ones. that it's really important because, like, you could be caught up in the spot. The second, I guess, like advice, it would be able to communicate. Really, like even the most like technical guys or ladies, they don't like yes or no answer. It's very difficult to communicate and build communication interview process when you just like answer with 1 to like 3 words in general. I actually lost my thought at this point. Yes, and you don't help me in this. Yeah, sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm like, this is
You
really...
can ask, Vitor, he might remember.
Yeah, Vitor, like, I know that it was something about Kubernetes, but I'm not sure if that was the right point. Yeah, I mean, like, this is like the second one. And the third one, and it's actually like, it's something that we quite usually face to the people who really want this position within the interview process. I mean, like, they know a lot about the company, they know a lot about the project, about the position, etc. And when like interviewer asks them a question that they don't know the answer on, for example, like, have you ever worked with JavaScript? And this guy, like, or girl, they're like Java developer. Instead of saying like, no, I haven't ever, they're just like, yeah, I mean, like, I heard something about that in the university. And it's kind of like a big problem because like all the interviewers, they will know that you're lying in this moment and you will not, give a great, no worries, bless you, impression in this point. So like, don't lie at the interview, but at the same point, like, if you feel that it's a certain question that you're answering, no, I don't know, or like, no, I don't have any kind of experience, try to be at this moment, like, creative and create the dialogue. So you can say like, no, I have never ever like worked with JavaScript, but at the same point, I'm quite interested in this like area. I passed some courses, or like, I'm actually open to this kind of experience in my life, and I could be prepared before I started this job and like, go through some courses. Can you recommend me some, literature at this point? So you actually like not only show that you are open, you're like honest in this communication, but that actually you're open to new skills and abilities, and that you'll be the person that the team could rely on in case if you need to work. So I will take it. Thank you. Through the new tasks.
Okay, so now there will be, tricky question to everyone, and it's actually a quick answer. So we talked a lot about like being, preparing for, your first, great international job. So we were talking how to do it and what to expect, and everyone is like, getting back to, like doing something, prepare yourself. So it's a process which takes time. So my question is like, what is your estimate? Like, I am, developer, never worked internationally, want to land my first international job. How much time would I need if I like really try really hard to prepare myself to be successful in getting my first job?
Can I throw the mic to someone else? Have you ever worked like in general, maybe like in a local company, or like never ever?
So see how she does it. So see, like, yeah. So let's say you have experience as developer, but not international, and maybe not a lot. Like you haven't had like 15 years. Like maybe you just started and had only some local experience.
3 days.
Okay.
Should I explain? Like,
well, I want I want first like at least to hear other options.
3 days. I'm gonna say that depends of level with English,
no,
and
it's first like range.
Oh my gosh! After 3 days, I don't know. I would say 3 months.
Okay.
Well, assuming that this person has English enough to work, I would say that 6 months.
If he has English.
Yes.
6 months, okay. I mean, I would go with Anastasia. You can 3 days. You can try. Then.
All right. So my answer is this. I think, and I'll give you the number, but I think we need to consider the assumptions. The assumptions I have, under which I'm giving the number, is that the person is fit in a skilled in general to work on whatever they are going to work on. They also know English to be able to communicate and are able to do this, right? And under these assumptions, they're also applying to a company that has worked with international developers, because the most important part in this thing, in this equation, is not even the individual person that needs to prepare, but it's the company and how ready the company is to hire somebody internationally. If the company's, everybody is German and sends everybody screenshots of please fix it, and then this guy joins from Brazil and starts asking questions. How are you? Every German person is going to be lost, right? So we need to assume that the company is also ready. So these are the three assumptions. Two of them are for the individual, one of them is for the company. In this case, my answer to this is 0. Otherwise, I think I beat the 3 days, right? I have to beat the 3 days. Yeah, he's ready to go. He knows English. The company's ready to hire. He knows the skills, what to prepare for. Like, there you go.
Awesome. Yeah, you're a tricky man who gave tricky answer to a tricky question.
What should I say now?
Okay, maybe we also can have like another round and just explain like your ideas, but not Alexey. Well, maybe no.
I actually spent like 40 minutes explaining people that you need to be prepared for the interview. Yeah. No, I mean, like, even taking all these assumptions, and if we are thinking that this person, like, that me as a candidate, for example, I don't have like solid experience of like 30 years in general, I would say that, like, you need like at least 1 day to, I mean, like, don't need to spend 24 hours, but, at least like 1 day to train some kind of coding tasks, to understand how the process will look like, talk to the people, to talk to the recruiter, for example, create the structure for yourself, create the summary. Then on the second day, in more or less like, maybe relieved mode, you could do it one more time again and work on your mistakes. And then the third day, maybe like you'll be awesome at this point. So you could like, feel freely in this meeting. I really don't think that you need more time for that. You definitely, and even if you have some kind of issues with communicative English, for example, this time you could spend actually like, on answering for yourself on some kind of questions and train your communicative skills. So like, on the first day when you have an interview, you will like, be more or less prepared for that.
Okay. Well, as I start to speak, I think it's relative, because if you are totally prepared, if you're good English, we only need 3 days or maybe 0. But consider people who don't speak in English or have a intermediate level or maybe a basic level, probably we need much more time to be prepared for an interview, an English interview, for example. But it's relative. I'm, for example, learn a language in 3 months, and I accept a job even if I don't speak this language. So it's relative and depends of the opportunity, depends of the level of the requirements, and how much you are prepared for the level of the requirements of that opportunity. So that's my.
It's you.
It's because I said 6 months because that's the time that I took to get my first job in the US. And I have to say that my first challenge was the phone calls interview at that time with no video. And that was awful. I mean, even if you think you know how to speak in English, you have never answered an interview in a phone call. It's terrible. It's really hard. I mean, it's a level of English that you don't learn. You have to experience that. So I did, and this is something that I did not mention during my presentation. I did a lot of phone calls. I did a lot of interviews. I submit multiple resumes to multiple companies. And that took me to understand the process, to understand the culture, to change the approach that I was approaching the companies. And then after 6 months, I got my first gig. So I was locally in the place that I was working. I was good enough in English, had experience in my subject, but it took me a while. Probably I have to consider the context that this was 2013, 2014. Today is 2022. It's different post-COVID. Probably it would take me less than that, definitely.
Yeah, and talking talking in English, just phone is really tough. I still have troubles when I need just to call someone, like pharmacy, doctor. I'm like preparing myself because people have accent, people something, and just like, and it's like it's really tough. And actually, but I do remember like I was working and we have like actually an actual phone that was at my desk, and people would call me at that phone, and I would need to talk to them in English, which seems so bizarre at the moment, but that's how it worked, back in when I was young. You already commented.
I just want to say
Okay.
that like it depends on what you include, right? If you include the time to find a job, like you mentioned, obviously you can't find a job in 0 time, and in that case, it might take time to do so. Also, if you haven't prepared yourself to speak English in the interview and things like this, it might take 3 days or 3 months. So I think all in all, just want to say that I think all of the answers that we've got here are correct answers, and they are right.
I agree. I mean, I just wanted to,
And they share the perspectives of one thing from different things, like what do we include into this, where we are right now, where is the company right now, and all of them cover additional things.
At least 2 guys in this audience work internationally. Who work for international company now? Can you raise? Well, how long did it take you to prepare?
I applied and I got hired.
Perfect.
You're like, see, you guys. You.
So for me, it was like the first the first international interview was with Nesta, so it took me 0 days.
Okay.
Because for
There we
me,
go.
English for me was
Sorry?
a good part, but I was ready to talk to people. So for me, as Alexey said, I was ready with the English. Not so much about the skills, but as Alexey said, I was honest because I know my flaws. So I was just like clean about my flaws and just okay, let's go.
Don't split us into us and them. Have you seen the slides?
Guys are like not careful. That wasn't careful, choice.
For me too, like my first job in English was at the beginning of this year, and it took me about 1 month to get there because English was so good at that. Even that I went to England and learned there, I stopped using my English, so it was rusty. And it took me a while to work out the confidence to speak again. But in Sigma, it took me 0 days.
Yeah, and I think it's actually, it might be something, with Sigma, not, in general. But yeah, we actually, are pretty, fast, with hiring people in general. So cool. So next question is also a tricky one. I'm not sure if everyone will be able to answer it. And I'm not sure if everyone will be able to answer it honestly. So the question is, so I feel that every country has, I know that every country has some, particular, cultural traits. And some of the traits, are helpful to, to being productive, in working, and some of them, those traits are not, right? So what about Brazil? What Brazilian traits are helpful in work environment and what are unhelpful? Alexey.
Right. I don't know about the traits, honestly, that are unhelpful or helpful. And I don't actually know a lot about the traits that are specific to Brazil, I think. I can say that, for example, when it comes to Ukraine, you could see differences in, and I don't know if it's the same for Brazil or not. Like, but for me personally, for example, when I first started working with people from the U.S., let's say, I consider everybody in the U.S. to be sort of my customer, just by default. Like, if it's the guy from the U.S., it's my customer, right? If I manage him, doesn't matter, he's my customer. So if there is like something I need to address with that person, it's like, hey, this doesn't work. Like, let's fix this or address this or get a conversation. It would create this weird environment where I can tell to the local Ukrainian, or in this case for you, it'll be Brazilian person, like, hey, like, cut this, you know, we just need to work this out. And then you can't do the same to a person from a different country automatically. You have to kind of train yourself that, like, it doesn't mean that that person is from there. It doesn't mean that they know more than you or you know more than them, right? It just doesn't mean anything like this. They're just different. And even though you understand this on our brain level, I guess at some level, like, it's not really fully baked into the behavior of yourself when you speak with the people internationally. And this is something you need to kind of realize. And you probably only do this as you progress through this communication.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, and in general, I think it was an eye opener when we relocated to the US and I started to actually talk to, you know, people who are even our customers, like, you know, work like for a customer, that they don't know everything. You know, that was actually such a surprise because I felt like, you know, they're just like some like semi-gods who, you know, like know everything, you know, they know all the requirements. They just don't tell them to you, but they know all the requirements. They know how to do things. They know how to do business. They're just not always communicated about to you, but you just need, you know, to grab them, ask them, and, you know, they know. So that was my feeling, you know, before. And then I was like, so they make mistakes. They don't know. They are afraid. They're concerned. They don't know what they're doing. They're like normal people. That was really surprising for me at some point in time. So, but back to Brazilians.
Back to Brazil. I would start with the strengths from Brazilian in common, in average. The strengths that I see is the energy, is the excitement to work, to do things, to develop things, to build, usually good team workers. And also comes the creativity to solve problems, to identify different routes, resilience. I'm passionate about Brazilians working internationally because I had clear the experience that when I start to work outside Brazil, I was able to verify that the knowledge that we have, the experience that we have sometimes is even bigger than the average in other countries. And that's awesome. We just need to work on the other weak points that I will mention now. First is the commitment. I mean, you have to mean something. You have to say something. And if you commit with something, deliver that. They expect. Second is the date and the time. I mean, if something needs to be done, or if a meeting is ready to start at 2 p.m., it's 2 p.m. It's not 2:05. It's not 2:10. So delay, some countries are very sensitive with delays. I remember that I ran late in one of the meetings in the US, and they were calling my wife to see if I had a car accident. But actually, it was just my laziness to get there on time. And then my wife made clear that she didn't want to receive any other calls. And as an international husband, I accepted that. And that's also a good thing to work in Dell in Brazil, because this culture of you have a date, you have a time. It's really hard to have in Dell a meeting that is delayed, and a meeting that also go over the time that it's established to end.
Well, I agree with all you said. I can add that the other strength that we have, I think we are very flexible. people normally, and also we are very receptively. I don't know if the word is right, but I think that's it. So we open to receive different cultures and accept different cultures. So for us, I think it's more easy to adapt to this. And we also, when you have some challenge, we normally accept that, and we normally gonna put a lot of effort to make this happen. You know, we have a common culture here in Brazil that we are Brazilian and we never give up. So this normally, I think, is a thing that we have in common in Brazil. And about the weakness that I could add as well, I think that sometimes we have a lot of insecurity about our capacity, and normally we don't believe in ourselves that we can do more than we can think that we can do, you know? So maybe we could do huge things and we stopped ourselves because we don't believe in ourselves. So I think that is also common in a lot of places in Brazil, a lot of people. And also, as Nastia said, normally we are not prepared enough to accept international opportunity, for example, and we should be more prepared for an interview or for this first job, international job, because it's not totally different, but it's different from have an interview in Brazil or work for a Brazilian company. So I think that's it.
I mean, I had so many interviews within the last half a year. I was trying to calculate, like, you know, how many candidates actually show up on time. And I mean, like, that was a really struggle. And I'm so sorry about that. But really, like, you know, the most impressive for me situation, it was like maybe my second week of, like, you know, interviewing people from Brazil. And we had like this guy, and he was like rescheduling. And I was just like, okay, this is like the last one, like, you know, we need to have it. What? Reschedule an interview? Okay.
I'm worried about you about this story.
No, I mean, like, it's fine. So it was like, you know, for example, we dealt on like 10 a.m. It was like 10:25, which is like, okay, I mean, like, we are going home because like he is definitely not going to show up. And then he showed up like in 30 minutes later, and he was so offended that we are not going to talk to him anymore because he's like, what's happened? I mean, like, I'm here. Where are you? Like, why are you not here? And just like, wait, I mean, like, this is like struggling. I feel that we found a way how to deal with it right now, but like, it was a big surprise for me. I haven't used that kind of stuff. The second one, like, that I really like, you know, I'm trying to be adaptive to. I guess it's like, you know, because of, I don't know, either like excitement or like, you know, cheerfulness in general, or like politeness. It's sometimes difficult, like, you know, when you ask the person like what's actually wrong, like, you know, what you don't like, what could I do, like, you know, to help you. It takes some time to receive like honest answer because I feel like, you know, that people try not to offend me at this point, and I don't know, like, don't say something negative about the process or the interview or like the company in general, even if they have some thoughts. So that's like, you know, the difference that I noticed quite a lot. From the positive perspective, I really feel it, especially in the comparison to Ukraine, for example. People in Brazil are way more like, have way more like, you know,
Positive outlook in life.
Positive outlook in life, that's for sure. I mean, like, bright colors, I adore it.
Melissa is, you know, definitely a very, very nice Brazilian.
They didn't pay
trait.
for this advertisement. Yeah, but I mean, like, in general, they have like, you guys have like way more better communicative skills. So I don't feel this like, you know, yes or no answer is a big problem for you in general within the interviewing process. And like, you're way more positive, you're like way more open to some kind of new activities. And like, you know, it's easier, I feel that it's easier to suggest you some kind of challenge and you will accept it, like, you know, happily, and not just like, okay, like, again, here we go.
Okay, and actually the last question from me, and then if you have question from you, we will try to answer them. So my question number, my last question is, if you need to like say just one thing that, you know, like one action item, what for people should do starting from tomorrow, to get their like awesome international jobs, what this would be? Just one thing. What? I don't know. There's some
I'm thinking.
weird dynamics between us.
Given that it's not for engineers, but in general, right? I'm just coming up with these assumptions. I think it is probably going to be to learn the business objectives of the business that they're trying to get hired into, and see how they can reach those objectives, or help business reach those objectives.
Exposure, get exposure, try, go. I mean, even if your first try for a job interview will not work, definitely this will add you skills and knowledge to the second one, to the third one, to the fourth one, until you are getting good at and more experienced. So you need to be on the run.
That's it. Maybe I'm gonna do the merch now, but just do it, just move on, just try and keep going, as João said.
I feel like this is the last page of my presentation. Practice your communication English skills, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. So